Hello, welcome to the Managed Services Platform on Account Management episode 3. We are going to talk today about the technical debts. I'm Dénes Punhauser, your host, and let me introduce myself on here, who is going to be share his wisdom about that technical debt today.
Thanks for having me on the call, Danish.
So, what is this technical debt all about in the first place, Miles? What that mean?
Yeah, the idea of technical debt is that as soon as you acquire a new technology, it begins to age and newer technologies emerge that could potentially replace it, could work better, could help your business better. And so, like interest on a loan or any other type of debt, it compounds the effect over time. So as technology gets older, let's say it's a backup solution. If you keep using the same backup solution for 5 years, it's not going to be as effective as a newer technology. So what could happen? Well, I don't know. Maybe it takes longer to do the restore. Maybe it's not supported anymore. It creates compounding issues and problems related to your business. And that's the idea of technical debt.
So basically, like technical debt can be placed in on the managed service side, and obviously that's going to be more likely having the clients, all right? So basically the clients are having the debt, right?
Correct. Yeah, they're having that debt, and you having to support it also impacts your business as well. So as the technologies become more difficult to support, more prone to problems, and you're also having to support newer technologies, then it's compounding the type of experience and qualifications you need to have on terms of HR and resources in your team. But it could also erode your profitability if the older technologies are creating more problems at your client sites, more tickets being opened, more time for your techs to try and troubleshoot and resolve, whereas a newer technology wouldn't have as many of those problems.
Okay, so if I understand well, then the debt is on the client side, and managed services need to actually have a continuous effort to actually upgrading and updating the current technologies like firewalls and backups and all these like remote monitoring applications, right? And the other thing is that new technologies emerging like password management. That's a great example today because iOS 12 is coming with password management. Chrome was updated last week about password management. And it's funny that I see inside our tool when we have more than 1,000 users are using our system, and we get like 15-20 password resets every day, which means those people don't use password management. So that's kind of interesting that what's happening with the new technology, because that's another kind of compounding effect here, right?
It's not just about the existing technology getting older. I mean, that's going to have an effect for your clients. I mean, that could have a capital cost effect of having to replace things, but there's also the human cost of having to adopt new technologies. And if you wait for a whole bunch of them to come out and become relevant and present, then you suddenly have to adopt them. Password management is a great example. Or remember this year with the GDPR, all of a sudden, oh, it's the week that GDPR goes into effect. Now everybody's sending out 50 emails, and your inbox is full of emails. Well, anytime you're delaying progress, you're accumulating technical debt. And so from the MSP perspective, it puts more work on your plate over the long term because you were just procrastinating on helping your customers adopt new technologies. And from the customer's perspective, it puts them at greater risk, and it also makes them less of a profitable customer for you, and it creates more risk and cost to them long term as well, rather than just a steady, progressive, proactive approach to adopting new technologies.
Okay, so if I see right there are two things to work on from an MSP perspective. First of all, how to communicate effectively this debt, like how much is the debt for the customer, right? To be able to make decisions on not having those debts. The second is like how to actually get or put the process in place to be able to effectively, replace those things and introduce those items. How actually they should start doing that, Mike? So what's the first step, or how to start managing those client side technical debts?
Well, it's all about education. So if you can give them a clear picture of their current reality, of the overall health of their ecosystem, that helps illustrate where they're at today versus what would be the best practices today, and then inform them that over time, if you're using a scoring mechanism like we have in our audit report, you have to let them know that those scores are going to fall over time. And that's actually the accumulation of technical debt, is as those scores fall. And the scores will fall over time because better technologies emerge, and also newer technologies emerge. So even if they still have the most current endpoint protection technologies, but then something additional gets added to the stack, like password management or something like that, that can push the score down as well. So it's all about educating them and re-educating them to keep them competitive.
That's great. That's great, and I think that's a visual, like with the scoring system, that's obvious. Like, what's the ideal situation where they are and where they should be, and then we can compare that, and we can explain them like a year later that the investment they made wasn't go to dust, or that's not something we need to sell again or again, but actually this compounding effect of aging, that's why we are advising to have newer technologies adopted. I think it's great. Thanks for anything else to add for this technical debt today?
I think one thing that's really impactful to businesses, if you're trying to explain this to them, is if your client wants to remain competitive with technology, they need to be progressive in how they approach it, because their competitors who are carrying less technical debt and are more proactive and progressive with technology are going to attract better staff, and better staff are going to lead to better clients. So actually staying current and progressive and proactive with technology adoption leads to more competitive businesses, and that's our responsibility, your responsibility at the MSP to educate them on that. And so it's more than just new tech and exciting things like speeds and feeds and all that. It has a big impact on the business profitability overall in the long term.
The question is, and I think the challenge for most MSPs is to understand their client's business enough to be able to explain those different aspects, how it impacts their business. So, Miles, thank you very much for the chat today. And the next episode, number 4, is going to be talk about why actually managed services can't or do not have the right meetings, the right people for quarterly business reviews or annual reviews. So that's going to be a meeting management, how to make more engaging meetings as an account manager. So see you guys next week.
See you next time.